Welcome back to Behind the Bima. My dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Moskowitz. Behind the Bima is back, and it's back on a roll.
Better than ever.
I've been getting emails from people. They're so grateful. They say, thank you, I'm back. You know, people are creatures of habit and routine, and I guess whatever podcast you listen to, we're part of it. And I don't know about others, but I don't get a chance that often, but I try to go for a walk every day or when I drive, which is not often or far distances. But you open your podcast player, you have the podcast you subscribe to, and then they come up based on when a recent episodes come. And the ones that haven't had a recent episode in a long time get pushed to the bottom, and you wonder, like, what's going on? So we were in the push to the bottom, wonder what's going on. And we've had a great string, incredible guests, great conversations. If you haven't heard them, catch up, but it's always good to be back.
And you know what? The fun of it is that we enjoy them. We're talking to people that we enjoy learning from and listening to. And, you know, personally, I'm just learning a lot from a lot of these conversations.
Yeah, me too. And last week's episode, if you haven't heard it, make sure to catch it. Rabbi Daniel Gladstein. And he left me a message afterwards. He says, you know, I re-listened. I heard it now that it's out. I don't think I'm violating his confidence in this voice note. And he said, wow, you really caught me sort of unplugged and you let me get personal. That was great. So he appreciated it. And if you're somebody you've read his Frum and his books and you've heard his 13,000 talks online, you wonder, who's the man behind that? That's our goal, to have those kinds of conversations.
And we had similar feedback from Eli Beer. Eli Beer, a lot of the questions we asked, he said, I've never been asked that before. That's a good question.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do. Not catch people, but change the conversation.
No, the sign of a good interview or conversation is many of the people that we speak to have been on other podcasts, but did you ask them a question, say, no one ever asked me that before? And does it just feel like a comfortable conversation that people get to listen to?
Now, who gave us that advice the first time when we were talking about interviewing? Do you remember? Early on in Behind the Bima. Nachum Siegel.
That's right. He was a guest on Behind the Bima.
He was a guest on Behind the Bima, and you asked him a question. He said that what you have to do is get them to say something that they'll never say anywhere else, and that's how you're going to make it popular.
That is a great point.
Now, that's not the highlight of your week, because you sent me an image this week, Rabbi Goldberg, that you were very proud of it, and that was Rabbi Goldberg achieved inbox 0, which I could count on my hand the number of times that you have achieved that, but you achieved inbox 0.
Yeah.
Why are you so proud of that, Rabbi Goldberg?
There's a big debate about inbox 0. I know you're a big believer. I want to hear what you have to say in a moment. It's hard. First of all, inbox 0 is like, it's like chasing this goal that's running away from you. Because every time you get to inbox, for those who don't know, if anyone doesn't know, inbox 0 is you have your email inbox, emails that come in, you respond to them, delete them, file them. And when there's nothing in your inbox, there's a message that says inbox 0. And we use Outlook, Microsoft Outlook. It's like a little Mazel Tov message, like congratulations.
And they have like confetti coming down.
Confetti. It's a big moment. And it feels really good. You've like cleared the deck. Have you ever straightened up or cleaned your house? Everything's clean. You feel really good. Your desk. So that's virtually your inbox. It's like, it's clear. It's clear. Everything's been answered or filed or deleted. It's clear. The challenge of it is how absolutely impossible it is to maintain.
Short-lived.
Like I have to take the screenshot to send you. By the time you open my screenshot, there's more emails.
Now we play a joke on each other sometimes, because the second he sends me the inbox 0 image, what is the first thing I do? I send you an email just to ruin it for you.
Just to clog the inbox. So should it be a goal? And is it really a goal? Why does it mean a lot to you, inbox 0?
So I believe, and this is based on Kelmus, or like there is Torah behind it, but I really believe that external orderliness and cleanliness is a reflection of how you feel on the inside. So I could say for myself, and I did not grow up this way. You could ask my brother, who I shared a room with for many years, and I was a disaster and kept the place a complete mess. But as I've gotten older, I've appreciated cleanliness, and I've appreciated what it's done for me internally. So whether it's a clean room, whether it's a clean desk, we're going Behind the Bima. I cannot start writing a drasha until my desk is spotless, because I know I will not have the headspace to be able to be creative and clear if there's mess on my desk.
But what about the people who say it's organized chaos? You know, I've got some piles of papers, I've got things, I have a lot of things, and it's organized. I know where it is, and it's not, it looks like a mess, but it's not in my head. I mean, how do you get to that point that we'll come back to inbox 0, but how do you get to the point that your desk is clear? I mean, there's Post-it notes, there was notes on a conversation, there's the phone number that you wrote down, there's this drasha, there's this piece of a shir that you found, or a Torah that you copied.
So listen, different things work for different people, and I'm sure there's someone who has a chaotic way of thinking, and for them, the chaos generates that creativity. It happens to be not for me. For me, I need that external orderliness.
But how do you do it? What are the mechanics of it? So how are there no papers on your desk?
If I have an email that's sitting in my inbox,
I'll schedule it.
No, because it's all the same.
Hold on, forget email. Let's just
schedule it.
Tell me desk first.
Desk has got to be clean. I have almost
Where,
no papers.
where do you put papers?
Everything is filed away online.
Everything's virtual for you.
If I'm taking a picture of it, I'm filing away. I have a piece of paper with notes that I have that changes over 1 or 2 days, but that's it. There's nothing else on my desk. Now, again, maybe...
So again, give us
please.
We're going behind the Bima, Rabbi.
Because I want to push you.
So when you're on the phone with someone, you're taking some notes on that conversation.
Yeah.
Do you type them up? Do you take a picture of them?
Yeah.
And then you can throw it out? Like your goal is to throw it out?
My goal is to get rid of all the paper. And if there's paper there, then it's...
Have you moved from paper to now just being scattered and chaotic virtually? Meaning, is your phone or computer just filled with various file? Like you took a picture, you saved this, but you don't remember what you have.
No, because I have a filing system, and you and I both have filing systems, but I have a filing system that's searchable, and I can find almost anything anywhere. The thing that I find very hard, and I know you relate to this as well, is WhatsApp. Because WhatsApp is the variable here. I don't get nearly as many as you do, but we're getting hundreds of WhatsApp messages a day. And as opposed to inbox, zero, an inbox and Outlook where it's there, you can follow it, you can track it, and then you can get rid of it. If you're in a meeting, like we're recording right now, when we're done, you and I are going to turn on our phones, we're going to have 100 messages.
Yep.
There's no way to get back to all of them at the same time. You might see a message and want to come back to it, and then all of a sudden there's just a clutter in your WhatsApp messages, and that's what I find very difficult, and I know you agree with that as well.
I do. It's complicated. You mark as unread if there's something you still need to get back to. Now, we're both on the same page, I think, that when we see someone's phone where there are people, not in my immediate family, it's not my wife or kids, but the people in my family who, if you look at their phone, their WhatsApp says 13,222.
I'd have a heart attack.
I'm like, I start sweating, breaking out in hives.
We have colleagues. We have a former colleague who you and I both love dearly who never deleted an email. And they would have 36,452 emails in their inbox. And I would literally have anxiety just watching
I need clear notifications. It doesn't mean I answered every email, but I need clear notifications. I've seen everything. I now have, I triage, this is who knew first, this I'm going to get to, this is going to take some work, schedule it. I've also started using a lot the snooze on email.
Yes.
So I get an email and I say, that's not relevant. We have a Beis Din for Geirus. Our incredible administrator, Alana, will send out in advance the files of the people that we're meeting, the schedule of that day. So I just snooze it till the morning of that meeting because I don't want to see it. I don't want to clogging up the inbox. It'll come back that day. I know I need it. I don't want to have to look for it. So you can snooze an email and have it come back. I found it to be a great function.
So I'll do that. I'll schedule it. So for example, if she sends a schedule, an appointment, I'll put that in the appointment so that when it pops up and says 15 minutes, you have a Beis Din meeting, the email's there with all the bios and you can pull it right then instead of it just popping in at 7 o'clock.
Yes, I schedule emails to myself and I snooze emails to come back when I need them, but all towards the goal of reducing and consolidating the inbox to only what still needs to be addressed. So like you said, if I'm scheduling to deal with this later, then I snooze it or I resend it to myself, scheduled later. I want the inbox to just be what's left sort of today, what's in front of me that I need.
Now, what about you? Because you have a little bit more on your desk than I do.
Yeah. How
do you balance everything, have that organized chaos, create that creativity, but also a sense of orderliness?
I'm still a paper person. I'm not like papers everywhere and going crazy.
But you keep hard copies of drushes. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I have my file cabinets and I have a file for every shear and every drush I've given. And
now, how many times on Shabbos have you had to run to those folders?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm a visual person. So this is really Behind the Bima. Like I just gave a Parsha shir today. So my Parsha today I opened up whatever Parsha it is. We're putting this out. I open up that Parsha. I have a file. And in that file, I have all the drushes I've given, but I've also had printouts of other things I've seen that caught my eye that I like, that is someone else's newsletter, that's whatever, it's all in there. I also have, for every year, for the Parsha shir, the only thing I write down on the Parsha shir is the pasuk and who it was. So, Perek this, pasuk that, Tever Shmuel. So I'll look at last year's and say, what didn't I get to? Because that's, half of this year's Parsha shir is prepared because it's what I didn't get to last year. And I won't get to this year's, and that now I'm mostly prepared for next year. But I want to be able to go to Shalom Zachar, go to Shev Bracha. This past week spoke under a chuppah, speaking, have an unveiling, have a funeral. I open that file. I just start, if I'd have to keep opening files online, it would be very tedious to me.
The reason
whereas
why I
turning
prefer
papers
online,
is much
again,
better.
maybe that's just a stylistic difference. I like being able to search it. So let's say I'm giving a speech about happiness, or I'm speaking.
So I have both, by the way.
chuppah.
I type out my drushes, so it's all online also.
Right. But this can scan PDF. So I could put in any word and it'll scan all of my files, tell me exactly when I've spoken about it, if there's an article about it. That's why I prefer it.
Yeah.
The challenge is, if you need me on Shabbos morning off the cuff, I'm going blind because I don't have any of my files, whereas you do.
Yeah, I could still upgrade much better. I'm not meaning even the things that I have digitally, they're not organized. Pathetically so. Should I make an admission right now that I'm really embarrassed by?
Listen, hold on. I have drum roll, please. Yeah.
No, it's actually unbelievably humiliating and deeply upsetting, and I still haven't corrected it. I've been writing articles every week. I don't know, let's say in an average year of 52 weeks, I probably write between 40 and 45 articles. And I've been doing that now for, I don't know, 15 years. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles. I didn't save them. I don't have them organized. I sort of put them up online and then...
You don't have them in a file?
No. And it's on my list. I want you to know, the longer I procrastinate here, though, the better off I am. I'll tell you why.
Because AI.
Because I tried it with AI recently. I said, AI, download, organize, and index every article that you can find online from Rabbi Efrem Goldberg.
So you're basically hoping that technology gives you the ability to
technology will repair and correct and catch me up, I hope.
Wow.
I hope. Otherwise, I've...
That's so unlike you, though.
Yeah, I don't know why. There was a mental block. I just didn't.
Is it that because you fell behind and then at that point you just wrote it off and said,
and even though I've been upset about it for years, I'm like, well, it's too late. What am I going to start organizing them now?
I didn't know that about you.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
You don't write an article and immediately put it in a file?
No, it's terrible.
Wow.
And I should organize even on folders, some articles about Israel or politics or personal growth or midos or, it could be I read on diverse things.
Now we're seeing some amazing things happen with AI. I know we have some friends who are working on that for Torah-based stuff.
Yes.
And how its ability to
Sofer.ai. Let's give a big shout out to Zach at Sofer.ai. We've been partnering with him and working on things together.
So what are some of the things that they're able to do that's enhancing Torah learning?
So far, it's not enhancing it for Sofer.ai is enhancing it for anybody who goes there. But I've been partnering I now have transcriptions of every Parsha Shir I've given.
Wow.
So hundreds and hundreds of transcriptions. That in itself is useful, not as useful as I hoped it would be.
And they're word-for-word transcripts.
They are. So, and the difference between Sofer.ai and the other AI platforms out there is that Zach, this incredible guy, programmed it to recognize Hebrew language and to be familiar with it. So not only does it accurately get a pasuk, a chazal, it will hyperlink, can produce a source sheet out of what you quoted. It's extraordinary. I didn't appreciate when you read a transcription of the shir you gave, how unenjoyable it is to read. It's not readable. But we repeat ourselves, we build up, the way we present something orally is so different than the way we do written. So the next thing he did is actually he has a feature now that has the transcription and then it says create a summary of the transcription, which is the organized summary. And then the other thing that it has, which is amazing, is it has an AI, like you can ask a question to it. So if I say, please bring up any reference to Sheva Brachas Torah. It'll pull from the hundreds of Parshirim I've ever. I'm doing it now for the Emunah Shir, Siddur snippets I'm going to do also. And then you basically create a Google to your own life, to all the Shirim you've given. And then it can create outlines from it.
And it can do it in your voice. So if you say, based on everything I've said about Sheva Brachas, can you create an outline in my own voice based on the things that I would say for X?
I gave a talk recently about Rabbi Teitz, his 30th year at site. I'm very proud of the talk, and I did work on it. And I'm honored that his family felt I captured who he was, but I also used it to talk about what I think rabbis need to be. We've discussed that here also on Behind the Bima. I had given two previous talks on the 25th year at site of Rabbi Teitz and a People of the Book here. So I was like, Rabbi Teitz passed away 30 years ago. There's nothing new, at least that I know. I'm going to learn about him. How do I not start from scratch and preparing this talk on Rabbi Teitz? Maybe I shouldn't be admitting this out loud. I took both links, I put it in AI, and I said, create an outline and summary based on these two talks about Rabbi Teitz, what I found. And then from there, that was my starting point. It got me to like the 50-yard line, because then I found Torah for each of the things I wanted to highlight. I had 8 separate things I wanted to highlight.
Does that make you nervous?
But I wasn't like, let me reread a book about Rabbi Teitz.
But does that make you nervous? Because if you did that, I could do that to you too. I could go into AI and say, I'm going to put in 500 shirim of Rabbi Goldberg in all of his articles, and I'm going to basically download your brain onto me, and I don't need to learn anymore, create anymore. I'm just going to use everything you did and use it for my drushes, my shirim, and my articles.
It makes me nervous, not so nervous, because there are many, 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 many greater people that people will do that to than me.
But they could do it to all of them.
Do that with Rabbi Sachs, do that with a lot of other people. First of all, do it, enjoy it, and God bless, because the Torah Hashem gave me, or through me, not everybody around me agrees with this, or is happy. My feeling always is, Hashem provides, and when I share it freely, like people copy, plagiarize, borrow, attribute articles, drushas, stories, and it never bothers me. It's all even when people tell me, like, can I put this? I say, you use it? You don't even have to say it by my name. Because I feel like the more generous I am with you, feel to take anything, the more generous Hashem will be with me. So feel free to use AI to do that. I'm not resting on that. Meaning I'm never going to get to a point which is like, AI, write a drasha for me because I'm tired and I need the week off.
Well, that's a dangerous place
right,
to go.
I'm not going there. I don't believe I'll ever get there. And even with that, talking to Rabbi Tights, my goal wasn't like, let me outsource this work because my goal was, let me not spend time and energy where I don't need to. So I still gave it my spin. And I still chose the things I wanted to highlight about him. And I still found the divrei Torah for each one of those. And I still turned it into a charge for what I think rabbis need to be doing today. None of which AI could have done because that was still in my brain and my creativity. But it gave me the head start to it so that I wasn't spending time on things I don't need to.
Well, there are a lot of people that are obviously nervous about AI. I keep coming back to when the printing press was created, the most nervous people, the biggest opposition was from the Protestant church. And they were nervous about what happens when we empower the masses and give them knowledge. What's it going to do to religion? And I think history has proven that the printing press was a pretty good thing. So I think there'll be bumps along the road with AI, but listen, the Torah has survived this long. It's going to continue.
Yeah, I agree. The jury is still out. We can end it here on whether inbox zero should be a goal. A lot of the productivity people that you and I read or listen to or admire say that that's a distraction, that there is not a goal. That's an impossible fleeting goal, that you can never achieve it. Like, you'll never get to the point where you're like, I can shut it down. We just made a siyum on Zvachim. And of course, Hadron Alach means I'm going to come back to you. But there's a feeling like I close the book.
7.5 years.
And right, I'll come back to you. But like for now, I close it. You never close your inbox. That's the point.
But
I'll phrase it to you this way.
Play out that example?
Hold on, but let me phrase it this way. Given that you can't have inbox zero for any more than a millisecond, is it worth having at all?
Okay. Do you shower? Do you brush your teeth? Are your teeth going to get dirty again? Are you going to get... So what's the point of showering if you're going to get dirty again 5 minutes later? The answer is that when you come out of that shower and you feel clean, it's an amazing feeling. When you brush your teeth and it feels fresh and white, that's an amazing feeling. I feel that same thing with inbox zero. So yeah, in 20 minutes, are 50 emails going to come in again? Yeah. But for those 20 minutes, I'm living large.
That's a fair answer. I accept that. Like I said, the productivity people still think that it's a distraction. It shouldn't necessarily be a goal.
Could it be that there's no one answer for everybody?
Yeah, everyone's different.
Like, what works for me might not work for you. We have other friends that are very successful who have millions of emails.
Right.
And I think you just have to know yourself and what allows you to be creative.
I will say this though, whether you believe in inbox zero or you're comfortable with notifications at like 15,000, you can't miss and not answer emails. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Right. And that's what makes WhatsApp so
You could be at inbox zero because you deleted everything, you didn't answer anyone. And you could have 15,000, but you really got back to the people who you needed to get back to. So it's not about, the core issue is not whether you're at inbox zero or you have a billion notifications. It's being responsive. You got to get back to people.
That's what makes WhatsApp so difficult because it's so much more difficult to track dozens and dozens of message. Who am I getting back to? Who am I not? I don't know about you. Sometimes I'll sit there at the end of the day and I'll just take 10 minutes and go through my whole WhatsApp message and I'll just say, did I miss anything throughout the day? Did I glance over everything? And I'll come
We
back.
can talk about this another time because I want to get to our guests, but I'm actually struggling at this point, and I'm not saying this as like a flex, but you know, I'm older, I'm white, I've been this a few years, and Baruch Hashem, now we reach a lot of people. Like, at what point is it not reasonable to think you can get back to every email? And how do you create the hierarchy, right? You have family, you have shul members, you have, like, is it anybody who gets your email? If it's one word, if it's a sentence, if it's reading. Right now, I get back to everybody. I'm going to get emails from people I didn't get back to. And if I didn't get back to you, please do email me because I try to and think I get back to everybody.
Well, I sent a message once to a very prominent rabbi who we know, who's a big internet personality as well, has lots of shiurim online. And I had a question on one of his shiurim, and I thought he could help me in something that I was going through. And I received back a very sweet email that basically says, there's no way I can get back to everybody. If it's an emergency, call 911. If not, basically, lose my number because I can't. I'm busy learning, teaching, and counseling people closest to me, and I can't deal with everybody around the world.
So are we saving this for another conversation? Or
we could save it. We could. That could be the teaser.
Okay. Yeah, let's come back to that.
Because it's a deep conversation. There's a lot there.
It is
There's
there.
a lot there.
That person is probably like writing a lot of books and doing a lot of things.
Not writing books, but produced a ton of shiurim.
But it's the art of saying no. Right. Meaning they've chosen to say no so they could say yes to other things.
And I want you to know I wasn't
when you say yes to
it.
everything, then
I wasn't offended by it. I was annoyed personally because I really felt he could have helped me with my question, but I got it. It was written in a very respectful way.
Just consider like the governor of Florida. I'll call him out by name. when he was a congressman running for governor, I had his cell phone number. He would text me. I texted him. He came to my house for a Shabbos meal, and he was elected governor, and that was it.
You lost your number very quickly.
He had to. He changed his number. I didn't have access to him anymore. I saw him a couple times since then, and he still recognized me, and that was nice. But I lost access. And at first, there's a piece of me that's like, whoa, when you needed me, when you were running for governor, when you were a local congressman, and on the other hand, yeah, that's what he needed to become governor. But if I want him to govern Florida, so we have vouchers and we have no tolerance for hate.
He can't be responding to Efrem Goldberg.
Can't be responding to Efrem Goldberg. So, I get it. It's frustrating, but also
I think there's something deeper there about why you don't do that, and that's what it's going to be for next time.
Okay, but for now, we're excited to bring you not Alex Clare, Rabbi Alex Clare, who recently got his smicha. And we kept him too close. But he's the greatest. We're really excited to bring you the conversation with Rabbi Alex Clare. Big welcome back to Alex Clare. So excited to have you join us.
Thank you.
With a major change since the last time you were here. We spent last Hanukkah together, so a little over a year later. And last time you were Alex Clare, and now you are Rav Alex Clare, Rabbi Alex Clare. Yeah. You are ordained with smicha. Tell us about it.
Well, I spent a long time in yeshiva. I spent the last 10 years or so, more or less, in Yeshiva Yerushalayim. And the sort of natural outcome of that is to focus on getting a smicha. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what was the motivation?
I really want to learn Torah Lishma for its own sake. And I wanted to get the Shlo Lishma out of the way. So I thought, you know what, get that done. And if I can help people in the process, then,
But is the aspiration to serve as a community rabbi?
I sort of do it already as a mishpir. So we have this situation in London called Heichla Baal Shem, which is deeply rooted in the Torahs of Yisrael Baal Shem, to inspire Yidden, to give them a place where they can come and learn and verbring and to have a kumsitz on an El Shishi, etc. And that's kind of the mission right now. That's the goal, to just make a place where the Torahs of Baal Shem can be taught and learned and lived in London.
And do you find there's a growing population in London that's looking for that and craving that?
It's funny because, in London, everyone's an Einikel. Everyone is a descendant of some Rebbe. Everyone, they'll tell you. But the actual sort of the dissonance between the Torah Baal Shem and the fact that everyone has that deep connection anyway, we're trying to bridge that gap, because it's there. It's there. But London is, probably renowned for being very, very English. Even the most, Heimish and traditional sections of, orthodoxy, the Haredi world in London, can be very, very English. We need to there's warm things up a little bit.
Was there pushback?
Is that what people are looking for? Sorry. Is that what people are looking for? They're looking for warmth. In other words, we've had so much Torah, proliferation of Torah over the last number of years, but clearly this whole Panimius Torah, Baal Shem Tov, Hasidus is resonating, certainly here in America. Is that what they're looking for in London? They're just looking for this closeness, for the sense of community?
I think people have done the hows for years, learning Torah, keeping halacha. We need to give people more whys. Why are we doing it? What's the meaning behind it? What's the message? What's the inspiration? Nowadays where we probably, historically in terms of gashmias, material possessions, we've never really had it better. And now we have more time to sort of become anxious and neurotic and really double down on the things that are challenging to us. And I think Torah Baal Shem gives us the ability to help deal with ourselves, deal with our own struggles, and deal with why we're doing this.
But you're making change. Anytime that you're trying to push change, there's resistance.
Yeah.
Have you found resistance? And we're not speaking negatively about the London community, but just in general and extrapolating to other people and places that are advancing the Pneumius perspective. Sure. Have you met resistance of people who say, Alex, that's not, stick to the music. That's not how we do it here.
Sure.
That's not our minhag. That's not our Masorah. You just stick with,
You will get that inevitably. I think 20 years ago, things would have been a lot harder with this situation. People would have, sort of turned their noses up at it. But the truth is that, the amount of sort of the more accepted Haredi Rabbonim in London who end up coming to the place of Verbring and to hang out, it's a good sign.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, do you see a crossover between that and your music? In other words, music that you've written for years, for example, about how you'll have that initial spark and then things get difficult. I know you've written songs about that. Are you able to now connect that to Hasidus in a way that's maybe some other people...
You're saying the songs from before.
Before, right.
The early part of the career.
Right.
I think, our goal is to try and see the Hashgacha Pratis in every detail of our life, and to see the Yad Hashem in every detail of our life. And Hasidus applied is really just giving us the ability to have that, connection and awareness of godliness.
What was it like? I'm really curious about this, and we're going to get into your story. And even though it's been told so many times and in so many places, it hasn't been told here on Behind the Bima.
Okay,
and
we'll do it again.
And there still are maybe a few people who don't know it, and it's worth repeating.
Sure.
But before we do, I want to ask it to you sort of backwards, which is, what was it like to have left London? And I know you were already studying and growing and on your way when you went to yeshiva. Obviously, that's what drew you to leave London. But you left London a musician, an artist.
Yeah.
You had gained a certain prominence and you were on your way. You were a performer. You mixed in a London music community.
Sure.
You dated some high-profile musicians and were known publicly. And you left with one persona and you left with one appearance.
Yeah.
And you left for 10 years.
Yeah.
You went and you studied, you learned Eretz Yisrael in Israel, and you came back mamash like shina, like a whole new person.
Yeah.
Like a different person.
I wish that was true.
Yeah.
The reality is that you're always the same person. You know, you just have to refine what Hashem's given you already. And, sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we get it disastrously wrong, but it's a process. It's a process.
So, but what was it like leaving London one way, the same person,
Yeah.
and the same person, but refined, coming back a little bit of a different way? Like when you came back to London, did you go back to any of those friends, any of the musical community, any of the places you performed, any of the people you were with? Is there a piece of you that still felt or feels connected and attached to them?
To the world of music, of course. Like I'm a musician, and that creative outlet is, you can't really get rid of that. And there is a certain synergy and presence that I feel when I'm performing music that I don't really get anywhere else. Like that is still very much a part of who I am. That being said, obviously there's associations, within that world that are pretty negative. And I think I wouldn't say I've burnt those bridges, but I put gates on them. And, I don't necessarily have the desire to go back to that world. It's there. It's there. I think about it and see it. And, I think it's all about what you need to validate your own ego. And at the minute, I don't really need that. I don't need that.
So tell us more about that, because that fascinates me, right? There are a lot of people watching and listening who say, Alex Clare, your song Too Close, because I just checked, on YouTube is at 101 million views. On Spotify, it's still streaming.
1 million streams a month.
1 million streams a month.
Yeah.
So there's the Alex Clare, 100 million views, 1 million streams a month still. 2011 it came out? What year?
2011.
2011. So we're talking a long time ago. And it's still being downloaded 1 million streams a month. There's that Alex Clare. And then there's Rabbi Alex Clare. And I know they're not two separate people.
It's the same person.
It's the same person. But just in terms of how it's perceived or the public receives. And so there are a lot of people watching, listening, saying, Alex Clare, like he was on the verge, if not, had already entered the world of greatness. He was a world famous musician. His music's being downloaded 1 million times. He was part of a community, a network, award winning. He could have been on stage, could have been performing, could have had a life. And he gave it all up for this beard and Pnimius and the Baal Shem and Smicha and what you just hinted to, but please, like explain it more, was that maybe that filled you in one way and you don't need it to fill you in that way. What's filling you differently? What's filling you instead? What wasn't ever really filling you? How do you tell other people who have talent and skill but dream of fame and fortune that that's not the goal and that the goal is really inside yourself?
Externally, that world is very validating. Very, very validating. It's one pats you on the back and tells you, it's wonderful, well done, until they don't, and then they shoot you down, and then you have to go on this sort of roller coaster of emotional dysregulation. The truth is, there's a concept by the Mukabalim, they say, Tanuk to me the same Tanuk, that constant pleasure is no pleasure. And if you're living in a state of, constant delight and you're seeking that, you'll never actually appreciate it or enjoy it, really. Just stay on a high, and then you'll have a crash and you'll feel absolutely awful. I think the reality is that focusing on spiritual pursuits and trying to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to have a sense of Dveikus, there's obviously good days and bad days, and there's days where you feel closer and days where you feel, you're being pushed a little bit. But there's a lot more meaning there. There's a much bigger, why to be asked in that space.
Can I just drill a little bit deeper to that question? Because I think what Rabbi Goldberg's touching upon is what so many teenagers and young adults in our world are grappling with, which is a social media world.
Yes.
Which is a world that it looks at likes and clicks and Instagram and TikTok, and there's so much external validation. And yet we know that on the inside, so many young people are struggling with anxiety and depression and self-esteem issues. What message from your life, because what you just described, I think, is the antidote. What would you tell someone younger who lives in that social media world? What would be your message to them to break them out of that cycle, to help them realize that there's an inner world that they could seek that'll give them much more, might not give them as much fame, but will give them a lot more fulfillment.
Get off your phone and go for a run. That's what I'd say. As simple as that. Just put your phone down. You don't need constant validation. Your body can't live with that level of serotonin and dopamine constantly coming into your brain. It's really, really unhealthy. Unfortunately, it's necessary that we stay connected and we convince ourselves that we need those validating, likes and subscriptions. And, in many careers, they're important, for promotion and et cetera, But, don't, you've got to see the woods for the trees and to understand, although that's a useful tool, it will create anxiety and an addiction. An addiction is feels great while you're up, but when you're not.
How do you teach that to someone who's never tasted it? In other words,
they're probably gonna have to taste it.
How would someone have gotten that through the Alex Clare on his way up? The Alex Clare who was fighting through to break into the industry. If someone would have stopped you and said, "Careful what you wish for, because this isn't really what's going to do it." You probably wouldn't have heard it then. You need to be in a space and a place.
I needed to get there. And I got there. And I was, before I got there, I was willing to give it all up, and I had given it all up. I walked away from the music industry, and then went to yeshiva. And while I'm in yeshiva, suddenly a song of mine becomes
Yes, let's go back. Let's tell this. So we've been pushing it off. We're avoiding it, but we can't avoid it any longer. So tell us again. Where were you born?
I was born in London. Born in London, Southeast London. I was a musician as a kid. I played in, drums in bands and guitars in bands, and decided as a teenager that I wanted to be a professional musician. I wanted to be play in bands originally. I didn't want to be a songwriter or an artist. I just wanted to hang out and play music.
Any religion in your life as a kid?
Not really. Very very superficial. Very superficial. Occasional strolls into the local reform shul in Bromley, but that's it really. And then always had a munah, like always believed in Hashem. And never had like a suffix in that area. Never had doubts. I always felt like Hashem was there and real. And whatever deep existential questions I had, which were few, I could find the answers fairly easily within myself. I didn't. I wasn't really part of the big struggle for me. I think as a teenager, my aspirations were to be a musician and to play. And I lived that life. From the age of 15, I was already playing in bands, and in those early 2000s in London. It was a great time to be a musician. Really, the amount of my peer group who went on to, musical success and greatness is disproportionate, like the rest of the world. Bands like Florence and the Machine and Mumford and Sons, and people who became massive, Adele, and various others. They were in your network. That was your all friend within
group,
the greater circle of. I wouldn't necessarily my friend group, but the social group. Social group, for sure. The social setting.
With them, or you were going to the same venues,
same clubs, same club nights, same bars. That was that world. And I grew up in an area where the Jewish community was tiny. You're always kind of the other. And then I moved to North London, to Camden Town, where the music scene was, and suddenly my circle of friends became a lot more Jewish, which was great. I never felt like.
What age is this?
18, 19. Pretty young, suddenly.
What was happening around you at the time? Parents, teachers, family? Was anyone saying, Alex, were they cheering you on and just go do it, and it doesn't matter what time you come home? Or
I left home more or less when I was 17. And I didn't come back. Like I was out there and living that life of an itinerant musician, really. Wild when I think about it. Unbelievable. My oldest child is now, Bas Mitzvah. She's 12. And I think, just in a few years to think of her being out there in such a place, it's really scary. It's really scary. And it was scary. Like it was really, really wild. And I had way too much freedom as a kid. And really pushed the envelope as much as I possibly could. And being in that world of rock and roll is, it's a very open and not necessarily the healthiest place to be. But very attractive when you're 17, 18 years old. A lot of fun, a lot of adventure. A lot of risk, a lot of excitement. So I moved to northwest London, Camden, and between rocking and rolling and hanging out with various celebrities and people of note, there was just a little core of beautiful Yidden, and I started going to occasional Shabbos meals. I got invited to Yom Tov with some friends of mine, and slowly but surely I just started thinking this is quite nice. This is pretty beautiful, and.
Why did you agree to go? Like I would have thought those worlds collided.
No,
I would have thought.
It's geschmack. He doesn't love chicken soup on a Friday night,
Yeah. And you didn't feel like I could be hanging out with these famous people. Why am I hanging out with these religious fanatics?
I'd go to Friday night, and they weren't religious fanatics. In England, the majority of Jewish people in England are traditional. They might not be Shomer Shabbos, but the shul they go to is an Orthodox shul when they do go, or the shul they don't go to just as an Orthodox shul.
So you started by getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, for sure. And started learning more. I decided that I really had to learn Ivrit. I felt like learning Hebrew was important. So I started doing that, and that sort of spiraled into learning Nach and Mishnah, and as an autodidact, really on my own, just because it was something to do. And after a while of going through a pretty hedonistic and wild period that was incredibly emotionally disruptive, I decided that I really needed something authentic and real, and I left Camden Town, which was the hipster hub, and moved to Stamford Hill, which is the Hasidic hub of London. A big
same beards, just different.
Exactly. Same beards, just slightly different outlook on life. Yeah, the clothes are different. Yeah, and the hats. But yeah, so I moved to Stamford Hill, and then slowly but surely started keeping Shabbos, and at that same sort of time, was getting courted by the record industry to make an album, and I did. Got signed to Island Records. Got sent to Jamaica and to New Orleans to work with various big shot producers, and made an album. Came back to London and released the album, and it didn't do much. And the assumption from the record label was, even though it was, they put a substantial amount of money behind it and were getting good promotional opportunities, I had to turn a lot down because they were on Friday nights or Shabbos. And as a result, after a while, the record label basically dropped me. They fired me because I kept Shabbos. I wouldn't take these opportunities, and it was very, very difficult time in my life. Having being an itinerant musician who doesn't really have his own apartment, to suddenly having money and an apartment and a career, to have that suddenly taken away from you. Essentially because you keep Shabbat.
Did you waver in it?
Yeah, I just want to pause there for a second, because you tell the story. Is it like, I was at a major record label and then I gave it up because of Shabbos, and it was like a little hard, and that is like
very English,
right?
Like
exactly.
Heroic.
Let's just pause there for a second, because I've heard your story and I've heard interviews with you,
and
every time I hear that story, it's more and more amazing every time. And you refer to this like, it was a little difficult. I would imagine it was more than a little. It was
very hard,
and I would imagine your friends thought you were crazy.
Yes,
and I would imagine there were lots of ups and downs. The reason why I want to push on that a little bit is because I don't want to fantasize that decision for people. Like, oh, Alex was this and he changed, and like changing is so easy. I would imagine changing is not easy.
Sure.
And I want to dig a little deeper. And what does that mean to have ups and downs, to waver, to question yourself, to go through such a change, and then apply it to anything that anyone else would be going through?
And I'll follow up. Just, was it linear? Meaning, when you decided I'm keeping Shabbos, was it just straight and record label goodbye, everything else goodbye? And obviously you don't have to be too personal if you don't want, but were there ups and downs? Was there like one Shabbos where you're like, I'm going backwards a little bit? Was there, and I say that also because, right, our conversations here, and the reason we do that is the people listening, really starting with us and then everyone else, are looking for our own inspiration in other people's stories. Sure. So if we waver, if we have doubts, is life only linear? Like once you're in and you're not allowed to ever go back, or it's okay that there's ups and downs?
At that time, I was madly in love, with the Kodesh Baruch Hu and with Torah and with Shabbos, and it was very challenging because being a musician was everything I'd worked towards, and it's something that's very, very existential. Nevertheless, when you are in love, you're willing to do some pretty crazy things, and I've always been a pretty impulsive person. So for me, to keep Shabbos and to maintain that relationship was 100% the most important thing in my life. Thank God that was a koyach that I was given at the time, and though it was definitely an assignment, it was definitely a struggle. Shortly afterwards, after the comeback and after Too Close became a massive hit, I remember one Friday night I got offered a gig at the Polish embassy randomly in London, like $100,000. They offered me to play a show. I've never had a feel like that since for playing a show. And I remember just the simcha I had. I was like, thank you Hashem for that nisayon. Like, thank you, because up until that point, you sometimes doubt the hashgacha pratis, and then you suddenly see these moments where it's such a clear nisayon that it's so easy to walk back. There's no Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara doesn't even get involved. So arguably, it's not really a nisayon because there's no challenge there. I think the nisayon, the challenge, comes when there is that deep, deep struggle. And although there was difficulty, at the time, that sense of just being completely in love and focused made it, pretty easy.
What did you have to overcome? Agent, family, friends? Were there
So
people
that
around you saying you're
sure.
nuts?
Yes, that was the hardest thing, is that it burnt bridges, and it made it difficult in terms of my professional relationship with people and struggling with other people's disappointment, which is hard. It's hard when there's people you care about and people you work with and you rely on, and then they're disappointed that you've made these decisions. That's the challenge. That's difficult. That's you'd be inhuman if you didn't find that difficult.
Right.
You talk a lot about being in love with Hashem. And just if the camera could see your eyes, you lit up the second you said that. One of the challenges, I think, is that a lot of people talk about loving Hashem. It's very easy when you have everything in life and to say, oh, thank you, Hashem, I love Hashem. For you to say that while you're making this decision that's altering your life is, to me, that much more extraordinary. Define that love of Hashem. Was it this just inner sense? Was it this connection? Like a lot of people struggle for that. And for you, it almost sounds like it came so easily that it caused this life-altering decision.
I think the easiest way to put it is, if you know someone loves you, it makes it a lot easier to love them. And if sometimes they feel distant from you, but you know that love is still there, it makes you have that chukka, that yearning is even stronger. And the Baal Shem Tov says that a small doich of yamin mekareves, that the left hand pushes and the right hand brings close, is that to know that even when you feel like you're being pushed, the Baal Shem Tov says that you have to know that you can only push someone if you're incredibly close to them. And when you feel those pushes from Hashem, it's just an awareness that He's that much closer to you. And the Ibn Ezra says on the pasuk of Ben Bechori Yisrael, that Israel is my firstborn son. That Ibn Ezra says that Yosim beben Yochid, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you more than a father could love his only child. And the person has to know that and believe it and have no doubt about that whatsoever. That whatever you are struggling with or going through, to know that Hashem loves you infinitely more than you could ever imagine. And you can reciprocate that if you know that. You have to know it. Yeah, it's very important.
So you overcome all these voices telling you you're crazy, don't give up this career, you're nuts, but you stuck with it because you're madly in love with Hashem.
I think he's madly in love with us. You know, that's what you have to know. It's not that I'm madly in love with Hashem. It's that, you have to really know.
Because you were in a love affair.
Yeah.
In a mutual love affair, which is such a beautiful way of putting it. A lot of people have made a lot of difficult choices to start keeping Shabbos, and they talk about a day of rest, a day to disconnect, a day of this. Yeah. They leave out the Hashem, and they certainly leave out the love. So that is a remarkable way to frame it. And
it's complex. Like most love affairs, are complex situations. Yeah. And it's a complex relationship. And we drop the ball sometimes, but we have to know that He never does. So.
Can I just pull on the analogy, and I know you have another question? We're using the word love affair with Hashem. So I would imagine any love affair, there's that initial burst of energy, excitement, enthusiasm, and then there's a waning of that. And, every relationship goes through those ups and downs. I would imagine that when you first started keeping Shabbos and there were people cheering you on, and sure, people not cheering you on, but within your new community, people rooting for you and cheering you on, it felt amazing and you felt like you're doing the right thing. I would imagine that at some point that questions and the doubt and a little bit of the pullback of that relationship made it more complicated. Yeah. Did that happen, or was it just?
You know what? I think with me personally, it's hard to say. I'd have to really think about it. Spend a bit more time thinking about it. I think that when you have that initial burst of love and passion, like when you meet someone who you fall in love with, it's the same thing. You feel that passion, and that does wane. It can't sustain itself. I think the cynical psychologists and psychiatrists amongst us would say that sense of desire that we feel is just a means of making a connection. And then when the connection is made, then we can sort of step back a little bit. The Baal Shem Tov explains by David HaMelech that Tzom Lecha Nafshi, by that pasuk, that we sometimes feel like a deep, deep thirst for the things that we desire. And came back Kodesh, when David HaMelech says, so too in the place of Kedusha, in the sanctuary, when I've achieved that level of connection, Hashem, I still want to feel that level of tzama, that level of thirst. And that's something that, does wane. And it's something you have to really, really work on. And that's why maintaining that relationship and, date nights, just like you have date nights in a relationship, you have to have them in your relationship with Hashem as well. You have to have those out-of-the-box experiences that make you feel like you're putting in the effort to connect.
Yeah,
and it's about time. All relationships are nurtured by time, communication, vulnerability, date 100%. Night, and all these same ingredients. So here you are, and you're starting to taste the taste. You're falling in love with God. Falling in love with God to the extent that you're willing to put the career on the back burner, turn down gigs, turn down contracts, lose a record label, What happens next?
So I pack up my bags, after losing my record deal, and I trying to figure out what to do with my life. I had like a 5-year plan to go to yeshiva. That was my goal, was to make an album, make another album, then eventually end up in yeshiva for a period. And now that period came way further forward in the schedule for the next few years, and I had like no money. I had like not a penny to my name really. I was actually in debt to my band, and there was a fairly miraculous story that ended up getting a gig that cleared a lot of my debt to the people that I work with. Went to yeshiva, but before I left for yeshiva, I get an email from a young man who lives in Seattle, Washington, called Keith Rivers, and Keith was making a commercial for Microsoft, and he had originally synced up another piece of music for this commercial, and from another artist, and Microsoft didn't like it, so they asked him to find a new piece of music. So we went to Los Angeles to meet with the music supervisors. Now, music supervisors have a very interesting job. Their job is to find music and sync it to TV and movies. That's their job. Before he went in for a meeting with a music supervisor, he went into the house where he was staying, and that individual happened to be playing one of my songs on the CD player.
How did they have your CD? That person?
They were like one of 100 people in America who bought my album at the time. My album had desperately low sales figures, but a few people in the US who loved English music and sort of get their finger on the pulse had bought my album.
Wow!
Including this individual called Blake.
So just the hashgacha, the divine providence of it.
Crazy.
I'm sure it was more, but let's exaggerate. 100 albums are sold in all of America.
Yeah, something like that.
And he bought one, and he's playing it at the moment that this music executive comes in.
This advertising producer walked in, yeah.
Producer.
So he walks in, and before he even went for a meeting with one of the, music, sync people, he found the song. It was playing on the stereo in this man's house. So he asked to borrow it, synced it up. Flew back to Seattle, played the commercial to Microsoft. They loved it. And then, he hadn't got permission to use it. So he starts freaking out.
Minor detail,
exactly. So he starts emailing Island Records, which was my record label who just fired me. And they were ignoring all the emails coming in with my name or any of my associated works. And, he really started panicking. And he went to my music publisher who found me. And I got this beautiful email.
Where were you at the time when you say you
in London, just before I left for yeshiva. And they this email with Microsoft Too Close came in, and he asked me to use it, and I said yes, of course, no problem. And the rest is history, so to speak. I didn't really expect much to happen. I'd had music used for TV shows and radio in the past, and even like commercials, like little bits here and there of things I worked on, and you get like a little residual trickle down from there, but it's nothing significant. And I didn't think much would come of it, to be honest.
So you basically say yes, and just don't forget to pay me a little bit, whatever comes from it. Not
so they actually offered me £75,000 at the time for it, which is amazing.
To buy it outright?
No, not to buy it outright, but to use it for the rights, which got me very excited because I realized I could stay in yeshiva for the rest of my life with that kind of money. I wish. And then I found out that I owed my record label significantly more than that. So that I never saw a penny of that. But, that was a nice feeling to know that it was going to eventually had a chance of maybe recouping something. I go to yeshiva, and when I'm in yeshiva, that's when things start going really crazy, that this commercial starts getting played all over the world, and people are shazamming the song like crazy. And before too long, the radio stations are wondering, why is this song being shazammed when it's not being played on radio?
Right.
So the radio stations all over the world start
Just tell them
playing
what Shazam is.
Shazam is an app that... if you hear a song and you want to know what it is, you turn on this app, your phone hears it, and it tells you what the song is. And it was getting millions of Shazams. Everyone who downloaded this app was basically, what's the song? We never had anything like it. It was the dawn of a genre of music called dubstep. Now, dubstep was a fusion of, has its roots in sort of, dance hall and, EDM style nightclubs. That's where it really comes from. And I'd kind of fused those elements of dubstep with something which is more, I guess, commercially viable. I didn't think about that at the time. I just wanted to make music that felt good and sounded good.
Right.
And initially that was didn't work in my favor because it was just too ahead of the curve. No one was doing that sort of thing. 6 months later, everybody like Taylor Swift was doing the same thing. But initially that type of music wasn't accepted in the mainstream. By the time I was in yeshiva and that commercial was being played, it suddenly became very, very relevant. which was great for me, because suddenly all over the world, radio stations, TV stations are playing this commercial, radio stations are playing it on the radio, and it's going up and up in the charts while I'm sitting in yeshiva, steiging.
That's an amazing image. You're sitting in yeshiva while your music is going.
It was crazy.
How does the notoriety change at that point?
At the time, I was blissfully unaware. I didn't have a smartphone at the time, and the only internet I used was like one of the kosher internet cafes in like Mea Sharim. So like I didn't have much access to what was going on until I got a phone call from from Universal Music in Germany, who told me I had to come to Germany because I was going to be number one there the following day. And I spoke to the Rosh Hashiva and said, this is crazy. Something's happening.
I'm sure he gets that Shaila every day.
Every day. He didn't know what number one was. He didn't know what it meant.
What's rock and roll? What's number one?
Exactly what's going on.
Universal.
And he knew that I had like not a penny to my name. And he said, will it mean Parnassa for you? And I said, yes, it'll mean Parnassa for me. He said, okay, yeah, you should go then. Go do it. And I went for 3 days and I was, number one in Germany. I got a phone call from the US to tell me I was number one in the airplay charts here. And number 7 in the Billboard Hot 100. And there's a radio station in the UK that wouldn't play my music initially. They wouldn't touch it because it was just wasn't current enough. It was too weird. And they phoned me up to tell me that I was now being on the A list for that radio station, Radio 1 in the UK. So suddenly everything just, turned around.
So you go to Germany. Where else did you go as part of this tour? And Germany was to perform?
That was just to do promo, to do like radio shows and TV shows and interviews, which is weird. When you're like studying in yeshiva and suddenly you're in Germany. It's like the being kids of a kitzvah, you're like two complete opposites. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you're going climbing number one.
Yeah. And
was there a piece of you that said, yeshiva was fun, time to get back into this?
So
I got to build on this momentum.
I asked the Shaila. There was a few things that happened that I won't go into in too much depth. But I made simanim for myself, which is something you're not really supposed to do. But I said, certain things happen, then I'll leave yeshiva because they seem totally improbable. Long story short, those things happened. And when I spoke it through with my, mashpim and rabbonim, and they were like, yeah, you should go take care of this while you can, because there's only so much time that you can exploit this situation. So for a couple of years, I went on tour and then went back to yeshiva. Yeah. So
now you reference your rabbanim. Is there 1 or 2 rabbanim that you regularly go to who you think give you the advice?
Sure. There's a few. The first one is my Rosh HaKollel. It's called Reb Shimon Garbos. Very special person in Yerushalayim. And then a few others. So Rav in London called Reb David Tugendhaft, who I'm very, very close to. Reb Itzhak Morgenstern on occasion. And a few others for Eitzah. Yeah. At the time, I think Reb David Tugendhaft in London was probably my go-to for Eitzah. Still is, to be honest.
So you brought back the career for a little bit, went on tour for a couple of years.
Yeah, went on tour, made a couple of albums.
What was the life like on tour now as a religious Jew, ben Torah, ben yeshiva?
Really hard. I got married in that time also, and my intent originally was my Shana Roshana to not tour too much, and if I did tour, that my wife would come on tour with me, and that didn't work out. She did not come on tour with me, and it was really, really difficult. Touring as a Frum musician, it's not impossible.
The touring at the time, I just want to clarify, because you're on tour now, but you're on tour now as a Frum musician playing Jewish music.
Exactly. And
that tour and that music was still your original music,
yeah,
and a secular non-Jewish audience.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So on a tour bus, 6 nights a week, shows 6 nights a week.
And I would imagine female fans didn't understand Orthodox Judaism.
Yeah, I mean fans in general, not just females, but fans in general, and having that, making those boundaries is important. Yeah, not impossible. The beauty of being a musician on that level is that you do have a level of distance anyway with stages, etc. But when you have meet and greets, that's when it gets awkward. There's one occasion that always makes me smile in San Francisco, where the tour manager explained to all the people coming to the meet and greet, Alex is Orthodox, like don't shake his hand, don't hug him. And in the middle of this, meet and greet, this lady comes up to me, gives me a kiss on both cheeks, and starts hugging me and starts speaking to me in Greek. And I'm like, what? She's like, I'm Orthodox. I'm Greek Orthodox.
Oh, that's funny.
These moments, I'm like, okay.
That's hilarious.
So
different type. Close but not close.
Exactly, close but no cigar. Yeah, so these moments happen.
2 years of touring, and
I think it's important to also say that you also have to be kind to yourself. And although there are boundaries, it's always worth asking a shaila, and to understand that in all aspects of life that there might be nephilos or yeridos or whatever you want to call it. A person might let the guard down. I think the point is to know that regardless of what, you can't always be perfect in life. You have to try your best, but to giving yourself the grace and the kindness to say that, okay, get back on the horse when you can. It's important. I think other Frum musicians have struggled with that and do struggle with that.
Because once they make a mistake, it compounds, and you might
100%. The Yitzhar gets in there and makes you feel like garbage. And
it's not just musicians; it's everyone.
Is it 100%? Yeah, it's totally applicable. And a mashpira of mine once said, beautifully said, don't be scared to be a hypocrite. Right? The Yitzhar, doesn't wants to make you feel like that's a terrible thing. But don't be scared. Like if you mess up in life and you feel like trying to get back to the level you're at before is hypocrisy, like, okay, no, but it's all right. Like, get back up.
It's good advice. It's important advice.
Yeah, don't be scared to be a hypocrite. It's okay.
Wow. So those 2 years you're touring.
Yeah.
I
got married. I started a family in that time also,
which
gave me a good foundation.
Yeah, what was that like though? In those 2 years, right here you are now, famous, number one in several countries, recognized, song being played everywhere at all times. You probably were recognized often when you were out.
Yeah.
People saw you. How do you navigate that, wondering who really wants a relationship with Alex Clare and who wants to be connected to a famous person? Who's in it for the real reason? How do you, this again, it may be very personal, but I'll at least ask the question and put it out there.
Yeah.
How do you date in that period of fame, wondering whether that person loves your neshama and you, or the person loves what it would mean to be married to Alex Clare?
Sure. So I knew my wife before the success. I knew her family. I was very close to her family. Spent time with them. I was like a Ben bias by her family. So that made that question a lot easier. But it is a very important question, and I never had great insecurity about it. In my late teens, early 20s, I knew some really famous people, much more known than I am. On a national, international, for all the wrong and right reasons. People are really famous, and I realized very early on that sycophancy is a real thing, and people wanting to be close to someone who has notoriety or fame makes them feel good, makes them feel successful. But it's a very ugly and shallow world to be in. And for all of my flirtations with, that world of celebrity, it always felt a bit like icky, it didn't feel like a good place to be.
You obviously have a special neshama that your antenna and radar felt the ickiness of it. Because most people...
I saw the ickiness. It's, really a bunch of miserable, dysfunctional people, who just happen to be in a place of, station.
How are you able to see that when so many others aren't? Because so many others are enamored.
Because I saw them the next day when they were hungover, when they were struggling with the pain of everyday existence, living on that level. And when people have cameras thrust in their faces and are being chased by paparazzi down the road. I saw that firsthand with people, and from people I was very, very close to. And it made me realize that that's not a world I would want to be in. And I think the beauty of hanging out with Frum Yidden was that, there was that level of anonymity and just, blending in. I wear a shtreimel on Shabbos, and in Yerushalayim it was the best camouflage you could ever have. No one ever suspects the guy with a shtreimel.
The beard also blends in Yerushalayim.
It does, exactly.
Now, as you're on this journey, is there any piece of you that wants to proselytize, that wants to take what you've discovered and share it with those people? Here you've hobnobbed with celebrities who are empty and hollow, and you've been there the next day, the literal or figurative hangover.
Yeah.
You don't want to say, I can feel that hole inside you.
Yeah.
I've discovered this thing called Shabbos, this love affair with Hashem.
Yeah.
And whether it's the Yidden, some very famous ones you were connected to,
sure,
or whether it's non-Jews, but let me share with you what I found.
Yeah. I think the difficulty is that when you've had that relationship in the past and they know you, I had a drummer who had known me since I was 18 years old and had seen my ups and my downs. Had a very intimate, close relationship, very good friends. And I think when someone has seen that journey and that growth and they know you, all your worst bits as well as your best bits, it's very hard for them to be makubal from such a relationship. So I've never tried in that world of, pop culture or my career, I've never tried to proselytize or, get people to drink the Kool-Aid. It's I think to work on myself and to keep my own level of inspiration and motivation is good. And if I can have a hashpah on people around me, I found usually that in terms of teaching and learning and having, hashpah, I find it tends to be more within the religious world.
Do you consciously talk to your children now about some of the struggles that you've had, the external world, the internal
Oh,
world?
they're my kids. They see it all.
They see it all.
Of course. Like, what can you hide from your kids? You know, they know you. They'll tell you who you really are.
Do they fully appreciate your story and your trajectory?
They're little, not yet. Maybe when they're older. My oldest is bas mitzvah. My youngest is 7. So they don't clap yet. I think in the next few years, my daughter will probably start realizing, oh.
She Googles your name.
Right.
Yeah.
And reads the websites that tell your story.
Yeah.
Or they see the volume of the hits of the people who listen to your music. It's What's your relationship like with your music that you wrote from before you discovered this love affair with Hashem? Do you, in your mind, view it as that was like, it's treif, it's from a period of my life that
or
it's
like
all...
That. I don't view it like that. I'm not such an extremist. I don't see it as treif. I see it as very much a part of a journey. There are certain songs that I have on my first album that I won't really sing anymore. But there isn't a demand to sing it anymore. You know, I'm not playing at the moment. Since October the 7th, I made a conscious decision to focus on Jewish music. So at the minute, I'm not playing that music anyway. I don't resent it. I don't feel like it's treif. I feel like it's, it was a moment in my life.
Part of your story. Let's talk about October 7th.
Hold on, before you get to October 7th, I just want to go, I don't want to let go of the music part yet. Do you miss or still listen to non-Jewish music? Are there elements in non-Jewish music?
Definitely still listen to non-Jewish music.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm a big hustle of the Beatles. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
As amazing and as wonderful as Jewish music is, there are people who have tasted non-Jewish music, who have a music sense and a music soul.
Yes, for sure.
Who want to diversify their...
100%. It's a struggle. It's a struggle, and I say this as kindly as I can. And I've said it before in podcasts, but I'll say it again. It's when you have a music industry that's focused on, has people creating music from a place of genuine creativity and a means to express themselves artistically, emotionally, sincerely, without having to worry about is something appropriate or not. Always going to create something from a much rawer, more powerful emotional space. The world of Jewish music is very limited in as much as that, what you can write about is much narrower. Certain things you just can't talk about. And also, if someone wants to make a career from Jewish music, they have to be aware that they're going to be making their money from, simchas, Jewish concerts, and there's a certain expectation and demand that is going to limit and stifle people's creativity. There are definitely exceptions to this. The sort of the wealth of Israeli musicians who are coming out with incredible music. The Isha Ribos and the Hanan Ben-Aris of the world. And then in America, people like Zusha who are, creating generally from a place of sincere creativity and connection without worrying about, the numbers. Create something beautiful. Until recently, that wasn't the case with Jewish music. The majority of it was created to, very much stay within an echo chamber, which was very limited.
Right, the four
chords. There's a saying in Nashville that 4 chords and a lot of truth is all you really need to write a song. That's okay. Simplicity, I have no problem with simplicity, as long as the simplicity comes with sincerity.
Does country music speak to you?
I love country music.
Because country music is that, right? I mean,
100%. Simplicity and sincerity, that's everything.
Like whatever they're going through in life, they're writing about it.
And that's what we want in Yiddishkeit, right? Simplicity and sincerity. Like that's the things to aim for. We want that, to keep things simple and to be, sincere. And
what's it like for you, the experience of writing? Are you still writing new songs?
At the moment, because I've been so focused on getting through your Adea, for the last year and a half, I haven't been writing too much music. Bits.
Yeah.
And, I've been finding a lot of connection through other nigunim. Obviously, I released a version of the Spoiler Zeda's Nigun Kolbi Ya'ar recently. So that was, something I found very powerful and very, profound and connected in a very deep way. But in terms of my own writing, my brain has been very much channeled into the pages of the Shulchan Aruch for quite a long time now.
What about turning, Rav Moshe Weinberger likes to reference, I think it's Rav Kook who endorsed him, maybe Rabbi Nachman, others before him, turning the Torah into a tefillah and into a song.
Sure.
Like taking what you learn and writing it as a tefillah prayer, but also attaching it and connecting it to songs. Does your soul do that with them?
Sure, absolutely. Maybe not.
It might be a little harder to do.
It is a bit harder. Torah voice is a bit difficult. Yeah. It's a bit difficult with Torah voice. There are other sections of Shulchan Aruch you could definitely, and definitely other areas of Torah.
Essentially think in song kind of a thing.
I think I've always been very, attracted to stories. That's how we inspire ourselves, is with a narrative. And I have used, even on my first album, I was using stories from Rabbi Nachman and stories of Reb Mental Futzafas, the Chabad Mishpir, was putting that into song even 15 years ago. So that's always been there.
Does it get old? We're gonna come back. I'm sorry.
No,
I just want to stick on music before we. Are you sick and tired of playing too close? Have you played too close recently?
I played it last night, actually.
Okay.
Or 2 nights ago, I played it in Frisco, Texas. I love it. When you see people, when they have a song like that, and it's something Seattle Shema I created in 2009. It's a long time ago when I wrote that song.
Did your kavanah of the song changed? It was originally written for one reason and by a certain person, and now you're a new person. So do you have a different mindfulness when you sing it today than you used to?
No, I don't. I don't have. You know what? The beauty of music is that there's like a consciousness that we have when we create a piece of music. When I play music, there's something that goes beyond consciousness. You stop thinking. It's the most amazing thing. Something just takes over.
How much of that is the audience's energy? Or do you
it
feel
definitely
the
makes a
energy of
difference.
the audience?
It definitely makes a difference. And when you have a song like that where you can see everyone singing along, it definitely makes us that actus is very powerful. It's very powerful. You feel that level of connection.
Do you still? This is usually Rabbi Moscow's question. Do you get nervous before you go on stage still today?
Yes,
you do.
Yeah,
a little
sure.
healthy nervousness,
Yeah,
butterflies.
for sure.
That's also good for people to hear and listen to. Is that somebody who reached
Yeah.
the top and performed everywhere still has a little angst before?
For sure.
Which is healthy.
And it's funny because when you're playing every night, you feel confident. You get into a rhythm. When you step away for a few months, when I step away for a few months from like playing live, that first gig back is always like nerve-wracking, and I feel very, very hard to communicate with the audience and to be fully present.
What do you do to prepare, both vocally? Is there a special drink that you use? Get enough sleep? Have a
Sleep.
l'chaim?
Sleep is the most important thing, and hydration. That's the most important thing, especially if you're flying. The demands of a schedule where you're flying across the Atlantic. Once a month, you have to have enough time to sleep and stay hydrated. That's the most important thing for a voice.
Got it.
The only thing that really heals it and makes it better, to be honest.
Is there a specific song, not your own, that you look to and you say, that resonates with me, that speaks to me, that tells my story?
There are a lot of songs that will elucidate different parts of my life and different stories that I relate to. That's the beauty of songwriting. When you hear a song that is it's relevant to you, you feel like you're not alone out there. Yeah, I had Moshe Weinberger give that mashal to Tehillim once. He said this beautiful idea that sometimes when we're davening, we feel the same limitation that these words aren't necessarily very meaningful. And he gave a beautiful mashal of a boy and a girl who fall in love. And they want to get married and have a beautiful life together. And then one night he's, wants to tell her how he feels. So he picks up the phone and he calls her and he says, I really like you. I really like you. And she's like, oh, great. Thanks. I like you. I like you too, bud. That's great. And he feels like such an idiot afterwards. He turns on his radio and he suddenly hears like a song, piece of music. And, like a Nilsson song or something. And suddenly he realizes that songwriter is saying everything that he wanted to say about his, this young lady that he was in love with. And he phones her up and says, I blew it when I tried to tell you what I had to say to you. But this guy on this song, this is exactly what I feel. So listen, turn on the radio right now to this station and this will explain what I feel. And I think that being present in like tefillah or in performing a piece of music or hearing a piece of music, when you hear that, how it relates to you, that's so important.
I do that with cards. I always get the card for like an anniversary that says everything. Like some of them are blank and some of them say everything. I get the ones that say everything and then I just write Amen.
Exactly. It's the thought that counts.
Nice.
Yeah,
October 7th.
All right, let's talk about October 7th.
Okay.
Obviously, you spoke about how after October 7th, you have pivoted a little bit in your approach to music and what you play. I would imagine also it's impacted you as a noticeable religious Jew in a world that's changed a lot in their views towards Israelis and Judaism. Yeah. How's that impacted you?
Massively. I was living in Israel at the time when it happened, and it was a difficult. It is a difficult time. It hasn't stopped being difficult the last 2 years. I think we've sort of gone from one situation to another of complexity and different challenges and struggles. I haven't had too much backlash from like the non-Jewish world on social media, which is interesting because I don't have that much of a profile anymore. And I think the people who do follow me are people who just want to listen to my music. And I don't really court publicity. I'm not someone who's out there pushing like an agenda or a message because that's not my job to do. I can share my story and I can share what I experienced on October 7th and, since then with people, honestly, and, not trying to, preach or virtual signal or do anything performative. Just live, just live and share whatever's going on in my life. And it's been tough. It was tough for all of us, and continues to be a struggle for Am Yisrael all over the world.
Do you see in London Jews who hadn't been connected since October 7th, their Jewish soul is a little bit
Very
more
much so, very much so. Not just in London, I think all over the place, people are more aware and more, these tragedies, unfortunately, to draw a little bit of light from that darkness is to realize that it has woken people up and made them realize that, regardless of assimilation and, or integration, whatever you want to call it, people suddenly feel very, very Jewish because, they're shouting at us, telling us we are. So, why not?
Now, you mentioned you were in Israel for October 7th.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
there one particular moment, story where you felt the sense of like Jewish unity? I know we here in Boca have felt it in various different ways on October 7th, post-October 7th, trips to Israel. Is there one experience, whether through music or through learning, where you just said, this is what it means to be part of the Jewish people?
I think on October the 7th itself, while davening Shachris of Simchas Torah in a bomb shelter with our little community, it was the most profound Psuka de Zimra of my life. All those words suddenly just became so relevant, and knowing that we're all in there together and just having that sense of, existential dread in many ways, like, well, this is real, this is really happening. And not having any information about what's happening in the rest of, in the South until, through the day, late, news was like trickling in of what was happening. And it was, both terrifying and inspiring. The level of purpose, a lot of the lone soldiers who were davening in Armenian that day was suddenly, getting calls to go back to their bases. And it was a very intense day. We decided to continue with Hakafas. I think we're on the shuls in Yerushalayim where we were carrying on with our Hakafas and everything you have to do on Simchas Torah, and telling, the Gabbai, who was not on Miluim at the time, but he was telling me, updating me what was happening. He sort of told everyone who has to go should go. Everyone else doesn't need to know. Like, tell the individuals who need to go back to their bases to go, but everyone else is here. People don't need the information. They don't need the anxiety. We know we can hear the air raid sirens. We're spending the day, running to the Ma'amad. We were aware of what was happening. And, it was a very, very intense day, and very intense few weeks afterwards. When they're, taking trips down to the south to drop off massive packages of toilet paper and socks, to people who need it. It was wild. It was a wild experience.
First of all, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Excited to be together again.
Yeah, it's so good to see you.
When you took on a religious life, and you were attracted and drawn to Pnimius Torah, the depth and the spirituality, the Torah, the Baal Shem, there are many who are attracted to it. I would include myself in it, who work on it internally. Yeah. But who don't necessarily adopt all of the externals of that lifestyle of that world. I asked to get a Rosh Yeshiva of Shaul Alter, who I've developed a relationship with. I was considering wearing a gartel. Should I start putting on a gartel? And he said to me, first wear a gartel internally, and when you can successfully do that for a little while, then you can put it on outside. And have the kavanah that you're creating a division between heart and Yerva before you die, and then when you get that right, you can put it on outside. You've gone all the way.
All the way.
Streimel, beard. We were talking before about a good beard oil, a beard scrub, what it takes to maintain
beard jealousy,
what it takes to maintain a good beard. Let us into the thinking about not only taking it on internally, but also and wife, kids, they're all on board. Is this a Hasidic family?
Hasidic family. It's a good question. I'll get to that. Mitzvah Hashem. I was living in Yerushalayim, and it was, actually easier to put on the uniform in many ways. To not stand out, to be part of a tzibur, so to speak. Well, that was pretty normal, and to have a certain level of like personal responsibility. When you put it on, you're in uniform. Again, the main thing is the internal work and the message. That's a really good question. Why put on the external levushim? I think it was just the setting I was in. I was just in the setting I was in. I was in that world. If I lived in Boca Raton, then maybe it wouldn't be. You hear the Chofetz Chaim, then when he moved to Radin, he put on Rabbeinu Tam Tefillin and started wearing a gartel because he didn't want to be separate from the community. He wanted to be part of the community. And there's a lot of beauty and meaning in Hasidic custom. It's very important to know the difference between the bells and whistles and the panemius of why things are. And, I heard the Tonna Rebbe once say that, regardless of what school of thought you live in authentic orthodoxy, whether you're Misnagid, Yeshivish, Hasidish, Sephardi, whatever it is. You have to know that to Hashem, regardless of what you're aligning with, if it's sincere and it's real, Hashem loves it the same. Hashem will love it the same. The most Litvish guy sitting in Lakewood, who's not saying Kabbalah Shabbos because it will Chas V'Shalom take away from his Asmadri and Limit Torah, for that guy versus the Chassidish guy who's, singing and dancing and clapping and, shrying while he davens, as long as it's real, then it's beloved. Tom the Rabbi says, but if you're going to be a fake anything, be a fake chassid. Because you'll have fun. You'll have a great time.
At least you'll have a great time.
You'll have such a good time. It's really, it's geschmack.
Yeah.
It's really geschmack. But it's important to know, not to get stuck in that, to become a parody of something. Don't do that.
What's next for Rabbi Alex Clare?
We'll see.
More music, London, Boca,
yeah, London
Israel.
for now. London for now, for a period. We'll see. We've got work to do there.
Yeah.
And it's I speak the language. I speak English pretty well. And so there's what to do in London.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing your story yet again and opening up your heart. And we're looking forward to continuing the
My
conversation and the song in many circumstances. So thank you so
We'll
much.
see you soon.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Bima. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week for another peek behind the Bima.